is the best time in history, in recent history for Black people. Because now we can stop complaining about what they doing and we can do for ourselves, dog. And so when we used to talk to people and they used to think we crazy, now they see that the world cares nothing about us. Because all these people that elected Trump, y'all think they just magically appeared? They have always been here. Bro, when you see these pictures of the Ku Klux Klan and you see all of them hundreds and hundreds, you think them people disappeared? They had kids and procreated and created other bigots. Like, bro, this is the best time. So let's stop complaining and let's make it. One of the reasons why a child said, well, I got to say this, a college young lady said this. She said, I saw David Banner in a Lamborghini. She said, that makes me want to listen to the revolutionary stuff that he says because I see success in it. Most of the time when we see people who are speaking knowledge or they're revolutionary, they ain't got no bread. These kids want the truth. If you talking that, how can I eat with it? One of the reasons why the Black Panthers were so successful in Oakland is because they fed people, dog. And it had nothing to do with the word. We can get the word after my stomach start growling, homie. And think about this. And y'all tell me if I'm lying, tell me that I'm lying. Last time Trump was president, wasn't that when the woke movement really started?
Yeah, man.
And still I rise, a proud, liberated Democrat, unbought, unbossed, and unafraid. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call to the attention of the House, this place that I revere, and notwithstanding recent events that I have great respect for. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in response to a censure that took place as it relates to my behavior. I have been told by some that they did not have an opportunity to hear the actual resolution as it was read. I have here H-Res 189, the censure resolution as it relates to my behavior. I believe this resolution should be read. I am not in any way upset with the speaker. I want people to know that the speaker did what he was supposed to do. He did what he was supposed to do when we had the joint session of Congress. When I interrupted, the speaker called it to my attention. He did it on multiple occasions. I have no reason in my heart to be upset with the speaker. Later, persons came over and escorted me out. I appreciate them. They were very kind to me, the officers, very kind. They said kind words to me. And as a result of my behavior, I have been censured. I did disrupt. And I did so because the president indicated that he had a mandate. And I wanted him to know that he didn't have a mandate to cut Medicaid. I did this because Medicaid is the only insurance many people have in this country. I am blessed. As I stand here now, there's a physician waiting. If something should happen, I will be taken to that physician. I have the best health care in the world. There are other people who have less than I. I would have them have what I have. But I surely will not stand by and see them lose what little they do have. Medicaid is for people who don't have the kind of health care that 435 members of Congress and 100 members of the Senate have. But they do have some health care. It has been approved by legislation that the Energy and Commerce Committee would cut $880 billion from their budget. The overwhelming majority of that budget has to do with health care. I see no way for this cut to take place without cutting into Medicaid. I am going to fight the cutting of Medicaid. I hope that this comment, this message that I'm giving today will deter them and cause them to go a different way. Then they can say, we were never going to do it. Al Green he just had this false notion. Well, let me have it. Don't cut Medicaid.
Cut Medicaid. Welcome. It is Friday. Let it be known. And I tell you what, Neil, a lot of things in that short video we just saw of Al Green. Of course, the David Banner video before that, a lot of things there. Um, Al Green took responsibility for his actions, but he also kept it all the way, as they say, 100.
On 1,000, standing 10 toes down, as
They
they say.
have the best health care. Don't cost them a dime. Like he said, there's a doctor standing right there in case something happened to any of them. And they get paid whether there's a shutdown, they're not being laid off. They are gonna be fine. And it was so refreshing because even the most radical, they never talk about that part, right? But it was so refreshing that he stood up there and said, "Look, it ain't gonna affect me. It's gonna affect all of these American people."
No, I thought it
And
was.
you got
I thought,
billionaires making these decisions.
yeah, I thought it was falling in line with respect, with decorum.
Yep.
However, I wish that, it would have been brought up the behavior of Republicans and how they've acted. When President Obama spoke at the State of the Union, he was called a liar. It was yelled out. Nobody was thrown out. And so we still continue to walk in the pattern of respect and decorum. And it's amazing to me how we as Black people have more respect for this nation, for democracy, and the president of the United States. And white folks are able to just be disrespectful, be racist, hypocrites, and yet there's no accountability for them. So there's
Oh,
still an issue there.
it's a major issue. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We do have anticipating Jamal Bowman to join us this morning, but I want to make sure to acknowledge that it is Happy SWAC Hoodie Day, and Orangey is down there rocking a JSU hoodie, and he is in Montgomery, Alabama, preparing for the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. So all eyes on Orangey, all eyes on the South, and specifically Montgomery, Alabama. I know Dr. Chavis is down there as well. You can rest assured that all of the civil rights folks are down there, and it's the 60th anniversary. So it's a big day down there. And I tell you what, David Banner, that video, it was interesting. And I liked most of what he said. The only thing I kind of veer from is the whole Lamborghini comment, because too many folks out here styling and profiling, and they got a huge car note. They ain't really got that money. They But I got his point though.
Yeah. All I can say about that is I do like his new show, Family Business, that's on BET Plus right now. It takes place in New Orleans. I think that's why he was there talking to Big Boy. He was promoting his new TV show, Family Business. And then, they got into a little politics. Sometimes, you got to let the politicians politic, and you got to let the hip hop people, hippity hop. Because I got to say.
Wow. Okay. Major Boyce is writing in that Democrats trying to play fair and be professional while the others are trying to destroy us. And um, yeah, I agree that other Democrats, all of them, not others, but all of them should have stood with Al Green. And I do agree that back Tuesday night when he was escorted out, they should have got up and left with him. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I will say this: I saw just this morning got a statement from Hakeem Jeffries, which was, and the reason I read this statement because we keep talking about, and rightfully so, with the exception of our guest this morning, who's never been the passive type, but how passive um, Democrats have been and continue to be. I mean, there's some exceptions, Jasper Crockett, of course, AOC, and we've seen a few others. But he said this, Niel, and I thought it was interesting because he was talking about Republican Rep Andy Ogles, who introduced a resolution attempting to remove House Democrats from their committees. And he goes on to say that the resolution is going nowhere. You ain't throwing no one off of any single committee. He says these people are malignant clowns. Um, Andy Ogles is a fraud, a complete and total fraud. You aren't throwing anyone off of any committee in the House of Representatives. Now, here's the part. Here's the part where you say, okay, finally, a little bit of gangster. He says, don't make me expose you to folks who don't know you.
Yeah, he said that last night after his video town hall with AG Letitia James. He had on his B-boy New York baseball cap. He had on a hoodie. He looked like somebody said, "You better say something, because that suit and tie, people getting tired of it. We need you to go B-boy." And he did it. But I talked to a couple of my legislator friends here in California, and I asked the question. I said, he said that they can't, he can, the Democrats aren't doing anything. They can, you can't remove them from the committees. But unfortunately, because Republicans have the majority, they actually can. And the only recourse that Democrats will have if they are removed from committees is appeal it. And even if they appeal it, they're still going to be removed from the committees. And so once again, our hands are tied. Now, I definitely don't blame Rep. Hakeem Jeffries for that. But the reality is the Republicans can remove them from the committees because they have the majority.
Yeah, and again, Major Boy says very telling how these folks know each other's secrets. Part of the reason for the silence, and you got to wonder about that. We talked. I know there's been speculation about why Hakeem has kind of been relatively quiet. Um, and why, and we're going to get into this. These 10 Democrats had the audacity to vote to censure Al Green when not one of them voted to censure Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert. Not one of them had anything to say when Boebert was apparently and allegedly, I gotta say, performing a sex act with her boyfriend in a movie theater. Um, None of them censored was it Gosar or whoever it was that called Obama a liar. And yet these 10 frauds go along with this, which shows you again, as we saw in that opening video with David Banner, right? Now it's out on the table. Everything's out on the table now. Black folks, you have no allies. You got no friends. It's all you got to do it yourself.
Hmm. I realize at least two of those individuals on the screen are California lawmakers. They represent the state of California. So, it's like we're in it for ourselves, but what are we going to do strategically? What are we going to do? Because the Trump clan and all of his, members of Congress, they're in control. And so strategically, is the only recourse to wait for the midterms next year? Or what? The question is, what can we do now? What do we do right now?
See, now I'm glad you brought that up, the midterms. I'm so glad you brought that up because a thought crossed my mind just this morning about that. When everyone's saying wait for the midterms, and where and I saw somebody saying that if the Democrats get the House and get the Senate back, they can impeach Trump and win the impeachment in the Senate. Because you remember when they impeached him twice before, because he's twice impeached. No other president in history has been twice impeached, but except for Donald Trump. Each time the Republicans had control of the Senate. And so, in order for him to be booted out of office after an impeachment, the Senate has to go along with it. In each case, the Senate, of course, led by Mitch McConnell, did not. But if the Democrats get both the House and the Senate, folks are saying, well, then they can get rid of Trump. But again, those 10 Democrats voted to censure Al Green. Do you think that the Democrats are going to unanimously in both houses, both chambers, I should say, unanimously go along with impeachment? I
I
highly
mean,
doubt that.
what that picture says to me is white folks gonna always white folk. Okay. And that's just what they do. And so, as Black people, how we identify with the party, I think that needs to be re-examined. And I think a lot of the older generations, like the ones that are in Selma, we love symbolic gestures. But my question, I would pose the question, while you guys are in Selma, what's happening? Is there a strategic planning meeting, or are we just going to church and singing "We Shall Overcome" and lift every voice and sing, which is important? Symbolism and remembrance. It says in our anthem, "Lest we forget." So no, we cannot forget. We always have to be reminded of our past. However, if there's no strategy happening in the place where the strategy led for us to get those voting rights in the Civil Rights Act, then what are we really doing? What are we doing?
And look, underscoring what we're saying, Motown Mini, somebody posted under the screen name Motown Mini on YouTube says exactly, Democrats are MAGA too. Don't be misled. There are MAGAs in
White
the
folks go
Democrats.
white folks, the liberal
Mhm.
of the liberal. The
Yep.
allies, white folks gonna white folks, and they gonna do
Yeah.
what's best for their interests. And I
'Cause
know
what?
you
Go
want to
ahead.
be an ally, but to be an ally is to speak against injustice. And you know damn well that Al Green, the contributions that he has made, his tenure in Congress did not merit for him to be kicked out of those chambers. Period.
And also to go along with that, what he was, his point, his message about Medicaid, right? That he was saying, and he told the truth. See, we get lost so much in this misinformation age that oh, it was a landslide. Trump won by he got that's a mandate. Well, as the votes continue to trickle in, and as the count finally we finally got a relatively true count. I mean, it was just a couple of points basically. And so that's not a mandate. A mandate is if so they decide a mandate is when you get 50% or better of the vote, which this president did not get. And again, Maxine Waters is taking it further, saying that she doesn't even think he won the election. But of course, you don't have enough uh, Democrats and enough Democrats with the type of I don't care what people think, like the Republicans did 4 years ago, to say, hey, let's look at this.
Well, they all know. We all know. A kindergartner knows that it's something ain't adding up to the smell test with this whole 2024 election. We all know that. It goes back to the initial statements of decorum, the politeness. But what I saw yesterday when Rep Al Green spoke is he's of that age to where a lot of his peers have Medicaid, and he sees the impact that Trump's decisions and the Republican clan's decisions, the impact it's going to have on his constituents and on Black folks at large. That's the emotion that I felt in his voice is that God, they know not what they're doing. And somebody better yell it from the rooftops. And I want to be on record as saying and calling out the BS. If nobody else is going to say it, because he said in an interview, he had no intentions of going in there to that State of the Union and doing that. But as sometimes things just boil up, and you got to speak truth to power. And I applaud him for doing that. You know, it was a natural response. He said it, and just the passion that he had. This is going to impact so many people. Like when I talk to my grandmother's 95. Thank God that, you know, it will impact her, but she'll be okay. You know what I'm saying? But there are so many people that are not going to be okay from the decisions that this Trump clan is making. And all of the Democrats are worried about decorum, or worried about losing their committee seats. You know, they're probably worried about their safety, because that definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them January 6th rioters are
they're all over the Capitol.
All over the Capitol. That's intimidation.
It is intimidation. But you know, I also think that as we're talking about these 10 Democrats too, also think that it's not just about safety that they're afraid of. I think they're afraid of being exposed. And there's a lot of skin they have in that MAGA game. And as Greer pointed out, one of the 10 Moskowitz, was Moskowitz the plant, because he had been loud against MAGA all this time, and all of a sudden he votes with MAGA. So you got to wonder. I don't know that it's all about, in some cases probably is about safety, but in a lot of cases I think it's about being exposed. Hakeem talked about exposing this one guy, if you recall, even on both sides. But the Republicans have been more vociferous about the fact that they got so much dirt within their own against each other in their own party. They threaten each other with that dirt. I'm sure the Democrats are not clean. I'm pretty sure of that.
Some of it might not even be a threat. Some of it is self-interest. And one thing about when you become an elected official, there is a certain level of power that you get. Them lobbyists are walking them halls. Them deals are being cut. Them pockets are being lined. And self-interest plays a lot into that. I can't lose this, because if I lose this seat or if I lose this committee, then that lobbyist money, them gifts, they're going to stop coming. All of these things play a part into how members of Congress, state legislators, all the way down to municipalities, a lot of that drives the decisions that they make.
And by the way, I said Motown Mini. It's Motown Mimi. Sorry about that, Mimi. She, I say she, I shouldn't say she, because I don't see a male or female there. I just see a.
What's your pronouns? Drop your pronouns in the chat.
But Motown Mimi says, and I agree with this 100%, that what Motown Mimi said, them standing in that well, I felt the same thing. Singing "We Shall Overcome" look like sheep on the way to the slaughter. I'm sorry. That's exactly the picture I got. It was like, okay, the death chamber is next. Mimi says she. The death chamber was, I was like, it may sound good. It's like you talking about what's happening down in Selma today.
Yeah. It feels good. You know, let's it.
But nobody, listen, we tired of the feel good stuff. Tired of having the ears tickle. We should be, right?
And you should ask yourself, they should be asking themselves the question while they're in Selma, what would John Lewis do? What did he do? Why did he march down that bridge? What happened to him? What happened to all of those people? Now, I'm not saying you gotta go at it with police, but what are we doing? If you guys are in Selma, it means that you are a part of solving the problem, right? If you're down in Selma, so where's the strategy? Where's the meeting in the bottom of the basement of the church? Where are y'all strategizing at?
That can't be Jamal Bowman sipping tea on us like this. That can't be. It just can't be. Listen,
almost made
he's
me
from
lose
New York. He's from New York. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if he had a Kango on and coming in on Rock the Bells, because Jamal don't play. Jamal will pull a fire alarm in a minute. That's for sure.
Look, and bust the Wu-Tang verse while he's doing it.
Exactly. Exactly. Welcome to Let It Be Known, Jamal. It's always good to see our former congressman. Unfortunately, former congressman. We know that was kind of stolen. Talking about stealing elections and stuff. We know his was stolen. Nobody talks about that.
Right.
But that's okay. That's okay. He knew he was a bounce back man. Nobody's gonna keep this man down. Listen, what did you get from this week's proceedings? Your fellow Democrats, they they stood up with Representative Green yesterday in that well, but nobody really stood up when he was being escorted out. What would Jamal Bowman have done?
Good question.
Yeah, good morning, family. Good to be with you. So first of all, much love and respect and huge shout out to Representative Al Green from Texas. That's what leadership looks like. That's what love for your country looks like. That's what love for your people looks like. And, I want to say this because I've been, a representative. I was a representative for 4 years. I've been on the House floor. I've been at the State of the Union. The courage that it takes, it's one thing to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, or we should do this, should do that. The courage that it takes to stand up in the middle of a joint address to Congress and shout resistance at the president of the United States, whoever he may be or he or she may be, with your cane. That takes, even Representative Al Green, I'm sure, had some nerves about that or had some reservations about that, even if minimal, but he stood up anyway and gave us a symbol of hope, a symbol of fight, a symbol of pushback against the fascist oligarchy takeover of our government, which is what's happening right now in real time, right in front of our eyes. Elon Musk is going into federal agencies with hackers, hacking our data, doing God knows what with that data. I know he's going to use it. I know he's going to weaponize it for his own gains, whether while he's still working at Doge or after he leaves Doge, because data is currency, data is oil, data is gold, data is power. So he has data. We have no idea what he has. So that's number one we need to protest against. Number two, Donald Trump is a white nationalist, canceling DEI programs, attacking black folk. He's been doing it his whole life, been doing this since he's been in politics. He's protesting that. And he's protesting $880 billion potential cuts to Medicaid. So first and foremost, shout out to Representative Al Green. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for giving us hope. Now, the first thing, where was I? I was on the phone. No, we were in a text chain with other, black leaders from across the country. My first reaction was, why ain't other people walking out with him? Why ain't other people walking out with him? Why ain't other people standing up with him? You can't let our brother leave by himself. That's our brother. That's our elder. You can't let him leave by himself.
Yep.
And then the next thing I said was, okay, I want to see interruption every 2-3 minutes. Every 2-3 minutes. Interrupt. Don't let this man continue with his speech. Everybody need to be thrown out, because that would have been the story more so than the speech, just like Al Green is the story. But unfortunately, because that didn't happen, the other story is, where is the courage? Where's the character? Where's the leadership from the Democratic Party? And I was there, and forgive me for the long answer. I was there during the day on Tuesday. I was talking to many of my colleagues, and they were split. They were not united. Some said we're gonna wear pink. Some said we're gonna have signs. A few did walk out, but they didn't walk out in big enough numbers where it would have like drew attention. So we didn't really see that on television. We
Right.
saw it when they posted on social media. And so to the point, and I heard the show before I came on, we need a coordinated operation and strategic effort to really mount this resistance. And yes, it would be great if members of Congress can be a part of leading that. But when you talk about John Lewis, you know, when he took those beatings, he wasn't in Congress yet, right? He was a man of the, he was on the streets. And so we on the streets have to also do our part, whether it's marching, writing, calling, screaming, tagging, protesting, you know, that we got to do, we all hands on deck right now for
Right.
sure.
Right. Right. And speaking of that, you just announced, or not too long ago, Built to Win Super PAC. Talk to us, that's part of what you're talking about. What are we going to do? Talk to us about your Super PAC.
Yeah, so when we look at Kamala Harris's campaign and my campaign for that matter, we have all of these consultants and we have all of these donors working with and giving money to the traditional establishment Democratic Party. And what the traditional establishment Democratic Party does is they do what they only know how to do. They spend that money trying to move independent voters or more liberal Republican voters or Midwest white voters to our side so that we can win an election. That's that, because all of the consultants and the big donors are ivory tower white folks for the most part, donating to the Democratic Party to invest in those spaces. And we don't have infrastructure in place where we invest in mobilizing Black and brown communities or young people. That infrastructure rarely exists. Shout out to the Collective PAC. I know they have a PAC. The Black PAC has a PAC. But even with those PACs, the money comes in like late in the game, like late in the election cycle, where you got to ramp up quickly and hopefully at the very last minute, you know, get our folks out to vote. What we need to do is year-round organizing, year-round fundraising, and invest that money in our communities early so that the people know we not just coming to them for a vote. We're coming to them so they are partners and a part of these movements we are trying to build. It's not just about winning an election. I'm in Yonkers right now. How do I invest in the people of Yonkers, give them some training around community organizing, help them make some money in doing that, but then give them information to empower them to hold their local Yonkers government accountable for not meeting the needs of the people of Yonkers. And so this is about year-round organizing. This is about year-round fundraising. This is about investing in Black, Arab, Asian, Latino communities specifically, because these are the communities that continue to be disillusioned by a system that ignores them. And so, you know, we are unapologetically going after those communities because those communities, they want to be a part of what's happening, but it has to come from us. It can't come from David Axelrod or John Podesta or someone who's not from our community. And so this is just one additional tool to hopefully build power in our communities and mobilize 5 million voters by the next presidential election and hundreds of thousands in between now and then to win elections in states and counties and cities across the country.
Nice.
Yeah, Representative Bowman, I have two things I want to get a response from you because one of the things that you and you know you and Corey Bush have a show coming up that we want you to kind of talk about a little bit later. But she's another outspoken person. I mentioned earlier that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, said this about Andy Ogles, quote, "Don't make me expose you to folks who don't know you." And I also mentioned that when we talk about the 10 Democrats who voted to censure Representative Green, I also mentioned that next year, even if Democrats win the House and the Senate, it's probably still not going to impeach the president or successfully impeach him all the way through. So I wanted your thoughts on one. Don't make me expose you to folks who don't know you. How many do you how much of this goes on in the in Congress? I got secrets on this guy, and he knows that I got these secrets. If they come out, he's done. How much of that goes on?
I mean, that's how Congress functions. It's not even like how much it goes on. It's part of the DNA. It's part of the culture. It's what Congress is, particularly for the more establishment folks who have been there a long time. I'll give you one very clear example. Matt Gaetz. So Matt Gaetz was nominated to be, I forget what Trump nominated him to be, but his record was so abhorrent that the Republicans in the Senate said absolutely not. Like, we are not even sniffing a confirmation of Matt Gaetz. But Matt Gaetz was just going along with his business in the House for how many years? Whatever he was doing, right? Sex trafficking minors, sex with minors. There was a whole report that was done. They swept it under the rug. So, Republicans especially protect their own and make sure, regardless of what they do, right? And so that's
Should you say allegedly? Should you say allegedly?
What, in terms of what? With Matt Gaetz?
You say sex trafficking, yeah.
Yeah, well, allegedly, right? But
I just want to make it clear.
I appreciate that. Allegedly, this is what Matt Gaetz was involved in, but there must have been something to it if the Republicans in the Senate was like, we not even stiffing Matt Gaetz. So that's just how it works, unfortunately, especially with those who have been there a long time. I think one of the problems is we can't just go along to get along. And so we've Black folk have had to do that in many cases just to have opportunities. And I understand that and I get that. But now we're in a bar fight right now. Like, we're in a fist fight right now. And so that requires a different energy altogether and a different disposition and a different approach. And so, we ain't ready to fight. Like, we gotta like that. We gotta figure that out, because, and this is why we need new voices and new generations of people being elected to Congress who have the energy and the perspective where they are ready to take on those fights.
And the idea of winning the midterms on both chambers and impeachment, just quickly, do you think I'm right that it wouldn't happen anyway?
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, you need 60 votes in the Senate to impeach. Yeah. If Chuck Schumer wanted to change that rule, he could. It's very important for people to know that many of these rules are norms, not rules. Like, they're not in the Constitution. So the filibuster in the Senate, for example, the 60 vote majority in the Senate, that's a Schumer can change that with a simple majority. He could get 50. Let's say we won the Senate and we have 51 votes in the Senate. He could take a vote to make sure any legislation that passed the Senate going forward needs a 51. He can do that. He's a 51 majority. But he won't or hasn't because, what if Republicans, what if Republicans take over and then they run crazy with it? Listen, look at what if got us. What if this? What if that? So I'm not going to do this because what if? That's governing and leading based on fear. That's governing and leading based on anxiety, based on something that we don't know what happened. My belief is that would be another example showing the American people that we are fighting for them. And when you fight for the people, you inspire the people. And when you inspire the people, they support you and come out to vote for you. Thus, Republicans don't win. But what happens is, as we know, and what has happened, Republicans are the one fighting, even though they wrong and strong. They wrong and strong, but at least they're fighting. So people feel something. This is a feelings business, right? So at the very least, you got me feeling something, and thus, and look at what has happened. Two Trump terms. Who would have thought? 2 Trump terms. Full conservative Supreme Court. When Mitch McConnell was the minority leader, it seemed like Obama couldn't do a damn thing. Chuck Schumer, minority leader, we bending it. Why didn't Chuck Schumer grind the nomination process to a halt in terms of Trump's appointees? As soon as they started stealing our data, why he ain't shut it down? He could have. He could have slowed it down. He could have did something. And that's the problem. The people don't see Democrats fighting enough.
Mm-hmm.
Not nearly enough.
Yeah.
So you've been a big supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. We see a lot of things happening right now, of course, in DC, getting rid of the mural. You hear about lawmakers and even Elon Musk saying free Derek Chauvin, which was a big movement for Black Lives Matter. And then you hear Donald Trump saying that he's going to do an executive order, if he hasn't already done it, to kill anybody. I mean, to have the death penalty for anybody who kills a police officer. So we see all of these things happening that could trigger the Black Lives Matter movement to go back into the streets. What are your thoughts about the Black Lives Matter movement in this Trump climate right now? And how do you see them moving effectively under this new Trump administration?
We need to be as strategic as possible. We need to be thinking 50 years from now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 1 year from now. We need to be super strategic, super organized, super operational. Yes, we need to be in the streets, and we need to be in the streets towards very specific ends. I don't want any kind of violence. I don't want anybody to be killed under any circumstances, God forbid. But I also, we have to be honest. We Black people always, we experience violence every day in this country, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, psychological, financial. The whole system is violent against us, and we constantly have to fight against that system. What we're going through now is that violence on steroids. We're in a war, and every day is a battle, and it's pretty much the way I have received all of this. I feel like I'm living in the history books I used to read, as a teacher or a student in high school. I feel like I'm living in that. I feel like when they used to talk about, the KKK and Jim Crow and lynchings and all of it, I feel like I'm living through that now, and I have been living through it, but it feels like now it's up a notch. Because they're not hiding it. I mean, for Ben Shapiro, he was the initial one who did it, to call for Derek Chauvin to be pardoned, or to start a petition process for him to be pardoned. For him to do that, that is the most racist thing you could do, and he's doing it out in the open publicly. And Elon Musk, who is a Nazi, by the way, his grandparents were in a Nazi party, is saying that's something to consider. Mm-hmm. That's like, think of the most horrific atrocities against white people in contemporary human history, the Holocaust. That's like us giving a pass to anyone associated with participating in the Holocaust. Or us saying, maybe posthumously we should look the other way. It's like these statues of Confederates who slaughtered who try to destroy our democracy. We don't want to support that because they support enslavement too. That's like supporting Germany erecting statues in support of the Holocaust. Like it's savagery. It's evil. And it's right in our faces now. And I think it's so in our faces, we're like shocked by it. We're like, what the it's like, really? You just gonna say that? Like Gavin Newsom having Charlie Kirk on his podcast.
That part.
Gavin Newsom, like, dog, you are a Democrat governor of a progressive state, California. You have supporters who are Black. You're thinking about running for president. You bring on Charlie Kirk because you think you're gonna bring white people together. Like they not like us and they don't care about us. And so that's why we got to fight, man. And that's why Black the each iteration of Black Lives Matter, after Trayvon was killed, after Eric Gardner was killed, after George Floyd was killed, I hope happens without a public lynching.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm concerned about, especially when they made the announcement and then Trump comes behind. Not to say anybody's going to do anything to a police officer, but the fact that he knows what will trigger people to go out and protest, and he knows what will happen. It's just so many code words that makes me afraid, because Black Lives Matter, although it is, it's in turmoil, there's still, like, Black Lives Matter grassroots under Dr. Melina Abdullah, they are doing the work. And I'm just afraid that if that happens, we're going to go out into the streets and it'll give the police the right to intimidate us. Let's not forget, police officers come from slave catchers. And so that whole mindset is still there. And so I just wanted to get your take on
it. When shit hits the fan, though, like, people hit the streets. Like after George Floyd, we were in the middle of COVID. People hit the streets. I was like, damn, all these people hitting the streets with COVID, they didn't care because it was like, yo, this is too much. Like, it's too much. So people hit the streets and people will accept the consequences. Wasn't a police officer just recently pardoned immediately after he was sentenced to 3 years in jail for killing a Black man? That just happened in some state. I'm forgetting which state. But yeah, it's man. We have to make sure we are protected. We have to protect ourselves and each other at all times.
Greer is asking, what have you learned since being targeted by AIPAC?
Yeah, so the reason why we're starting our super PAC is because of what I learned after being targeted by AIPAC. AIPAC has been organizing in Washington for 60 years, very strategically. Again, thinking long term, thinking strategically, but only since 2022 have they started spending big in congressional races and electoral politics. And they built the whole infrastructure to do so. They got super PACs, they got regular PACs, they got C4s, they got C3s. They work together in terms of business practices, and they built an infrastructure to be able to put up $100 million to anyone who challenged them. And so Black folk have that level of spending power if we organize it. And so we need to organize our money to help organize our people. And that's the point of the Built to Win super PAC. So my learning was they've built this infrastructure that supports itself. I think of the Jay-Z quote, no one would fall if everyone would be each other's crutches. So they hold each other up. And so we need to hold each other up the same way, financially and otherwise, towards building political power. See, Black folk, man, we've been trying to just survive, and we just been trying to be left alone. And these mofos can't even do that. They keep messing with us. Like, leave us alone. We just want to just leave us alone. Let us live. And so we need to build power. We need to be intentional about building power. We got Obama, not in just speaking for myself, at that time, I'm like, oh, snap, like America did this. Wow, like it's getting better. And what did America show us? Trump right after, right? So because once Obama got in, these people lost their mother effing mind and was like, we gonna organize, and they organized it. And, you got the Koch brothers and all these, Peter Thiel, and they got together and was like, we can't let this happen anymore. Trump, and then Biden because of COVID, and then Trump again. And so, yeah, man, that's what I learned. We have to be unapologetic about building power, because that's the other thing. We want to be left alone, and we just want to chill. And we've been raised to be polite and nice, and we've been raised to believe, when you go for power, you shouldn't be going for power, right? Like that's the indirect lesson. And this is not about power to control. It's about power to give. This is about power and love, which is justice. That is what this is about.
Well, and we have a few moments left. Can you give us a preview of what we're going to see, what to expect with you and Cori Bush?
Oh man, shout out to Cori Bush. It's going to be a lot of fun. We just recorded our first episode. It's coming out Monday, so look out for that. Check out Zateo News. We're going to take you behind the curtain. Where else can you go to hear from two former Black members of Congress who stood on business, as they say, and was ultimately taken out by the two most expensive primaries in U.S. history? Think about that. Wealthiest nation on earth. The two most expensive primaries, the two most expensive primaries were against two Black outspoken members of Congress. And so that we're going to take you behind the curtain with all of that. So stay tuned. It's going to be great.
All right. We can't let you leave, though, without getting your take on this mayor's race in New York. We see Adrienne Adams, New York City Council Speaker. She just entered the race. Yep. You have Michael Blake, who's in the race. You have Andrew Cuomo, who on your Instagram, you posted the picture with the Kings hat on. Where do you see this race going, and what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it seems like the majority of primary voters like Cuomo. I do not. I think we need to go in another direction. I don't know Adrienne Adams personally. I would love to connect with her, but she seems to be a well-liked and well-respected and well-regarded speaker. Zohran Mamdani has been running the strongest campaign by far. Younger Muslim brother who's just been out there killing it. He's running a strong campaign. Brad Lander's probably the most competent. He could roll out of bed tomorrow, run the city. He's a comptroller, good guy. And the others just haven't mounted strong enough campaigns as of yet. And so who knows where that's going? And notice I didn't even mention Eric Adams, because I don't think he has a shot because of all the scandals. And I don't think he's been the best mayor. I mean, it's so disappointing, the way politics works. Like, we get caught in these binaries and us versus them and all of that. When Eric Adams first got in, I was trying to work with him. But he and his handlers and his donors probably told him not to work with me because I'm too progressive and this or that, whatever the reasons were. And so, we missed the opportunity to do great work. And so whoever it is, I hope that they're open to working with the entire city, because I'm tired of the Bronx being left behind and ignored. And I'm tired of, Black communities not getting enough resources to do what they need to do. And the money is there. And that's the last thing I'll say. And this is not just learned since being talked about anybody. This learned from being in elected office. They got the money. They try to act like they don't. They got the money is there. It's there in the private sector. It's there in the public sector. We just don't prioritize Black folk. Period. And so I want someone in there who's going to prioritize Black folk. Someone in there who's going to prioritize marginalized folk. Someone in there who has a real plan for that. And Cuomo keep talking about police. He's doing that because, one, he probably believes it, but two, he wants to win an election. But we need affordable housing. We need education. We need workforce development. We need entrepreneurship. We need mental health supports that Cuomo cut. We need the same. The reason why Bronxville, New York, or Scarsdale, New York, or pick your white suburb in New York, the reason why it's safe there is not because of a bunch of police. It's people with resources. Give us some resources. Stop redlining our communities and see what we could do.
Wow. Well, as we expected, nothing but the truth from Representative Jamal Bowman. Looking forward to you and Corey Bush's program beginning on Monday. Thanks for joining the Black Press as always. We appreciate it. And don't forget us now. I mean, you got your own stuff now, but don't be playing that big man role on us.
Listen. Let's be very clear. You reached out yesterday. I said yes. For today.
Right.
So
yes.
Whenever you reach out, I'm there to support. Absolutely, 100%.
Love it. And we're going to take a look at a clip of your new show right now. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Right.
Yeah, it's so refreshing when you get just straight up. And it's not just that he's like this after Congress. He was like this in Congress.
Right.
So that's refreshing.
Let's take a look at a promo from his show.
You got it.
Remember me, Corey Bush? As a member of Congress, I fought for the people. I stood on the side of justice at home and abroad.
Congresswoman Corey Bush slept on the steps of the Capitol, pushing Congress and the president to help keep millions of Americans from facing eviction.
Corey Bush called for a ceasefire very early on.
AIPAC have spent over $8 million in an effort to defeat Bush.
Outside groups, including AIPAC, spent millions and millions of dollars to unseat me, to try to silence me. But baby, I'm still here, and I'm not alone.
Remember me? I'm Jamal Bowman. My belief in standing with working people and fighting for what's right meant that for some people, I was saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. The special interests came after me too.
Congressmember Bowman, one of the first to call for a ceasefire.
Pro-Israel groups have spent close to $20 million to take out progressive Congressman Jamal Bowman.
The most expensive congressional primary in American history.
It was essential for them to get me out, but I'm not here to talk about me.
We're here to talk about the big picture, to show you what's going on in America.
We'll be breaking down what's really happening in Washington, D.C.
The corruption, the lobbying, the big money, and how we could all be working better for you, but isn't.
It's our insider's perspective from the outside.
On our new show,
Bowman and Bush, y'all.
watch us on Zatale's YouTube channel. See you soon.
Nice.
There you have it. Wow.
Yes, we talk about we want more Black programming. We want to see more Black voices. And if the mainstream media is going to take it away from us, we're going to create the space for ourselves like we always do.
There you go. So let's just jump into the Black History moments.
Well, I have some quickies. I have some headlines that.
Oh, that's right. You do. I'm sorry.
Important news happening across the country.
Important news is happening, but go ahead.
Yeah. A graduate of Southern University and a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity has been arrested, Stacey, in the connection to the death of Caleb Wilson. Caleb McRae has been charged with criminal hazing and manslaughter. So, Southern University is still mourning the loss of Caleb Wilson. He was a member of the band. So during Mardi Gras this week and just a lot of ceremonies on the campus in Baton Rouge, they just, they celebrated this young man because it definitely was a heartbreaking story. And so it looks like there's going to be accountability. We know Omega Psi Phi put out a letter responding to this. And so the conversation of hazing in sororities and fraternities is a major headline. Mm-hmm. All right. So in South Carolina, that state will enact the death penalty by firing squad today. Okay. Now, the state now allows death row inmates to choose their method of execution. And so this man chose to die by gunfire. He was found guilty of beating David and Gladys Lark to death in 2001 after their daughter rejected him. Now, this man is a white man, but however, we want to, a lot of people want to abolish the death penalty. So this is just an interesting story. And this is something that Donald Trump is definitely going to get a kick out of.
Yeah, I think the last time someone died by a firing squad, if my memory serves me right, was a guy named Gary Gilmore, and that was sometime in the 70s, somewhere out west, Midwest, somewhere. Maybe somebody watching can remember that too, but it definitely was Gary Gilmore. I remember that because it was big news then.
Interesting. So now the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, has canceled the lease for the Barack Obama Presidential Library. However, the Obama camp was unfazed as the lease was set to expire this year anyway. So, I mean, why do it? Why do it? And the library is already moving to Maryland, and we know that he's still building the library in Chicago as well. That's still under construction.
Okay.
And finally, this is a good one. We're going to end on a good note. Kendrick Lamar has a new movie coming out this summer. Really excited about this. It's with the makers of South Park, the South Park creators, and it's entitled Whitney Springs. Now, the story will follow a young Black man interning at a slave reenactment at a living history museum. And then he discovers that his white girlfriend's ancestors once owned his family. Isn't that perfect for Kendrick? And it's supposed to be a comedy drama.
Yeah.
And this is falls right in the lines of Kendrick Lamar giving you a little history, but doing it with swag in a contemporary way that everybody will appreciate it, but you will walk away with a message and a lesson. You gotta love Kendrick Lamar.
So Austin says that Gary Gilmore died in Utah in 1977. So it was Utah, and it was 1977. Thanks, Austin. See, Austin brings some good stuff. I mean, he brings some information. Listen, don't forget too. Daylight saving time is this weekend. For the past 4 months, Neil, we've been on standard time, but overnight Saturday, we'll turn our clocks ahead 1 hour at 2 o'clock, which effectively makes it 3 o'clock. And here's something to think about, folks. Think about this.
Is that this weekend? That's this weekend.
That's this weekend.
Okay.
Now, think about this. If you got something scheduled for 2:30 a.m. Sunday, you better reschedule it because that time is not going to exist this coming Sunday. 2:30 a.m. will not exist this coming Sunday.
We go back, right? So instead of 2:30, it'll be
no, you swing forward.
So it'll be 3:30 instead of 2:30.
No, it won't be 30. It will be 2 o'clock, and then it will skip to 3 o'clock.
Oh, got it. Okay.
so somebody might be. What happens in California?
Well, what's the time in California where we miss an hour? Is it 11 o'clock?
It would be the 11:30. So if you're in California, if you got something planned, the club, somebody might, you might want to go and throw some dollars around or whatever. Not at 12:30, not at 11:30 in California. There will not be 11:30. There will not be a 2:30 on the East Coast. Isn't that something to think about? How we just skipped a whole thing. He said the black press. Mike B said the black press works off CP time. I just thought of that when I was thinking about this daylight saving time, because it goes, like I said, from 2 to 3 Eastern time, of course. And I'm like, well, so what happens at any time between 2:01? There's no 2:01. There's no 2:15. There's no 2:30. It just skips. It just skips. Oh boy.
A lot of people like this time of year because they get an extra hour of sun, extra hour or two of sun.
Hour of sun. Yeah. I guess that's a thing. And Shonda H is making the point that She doesn't understand why daylight saving times exists. Many states no longer observe it. Donald Trump says he wants to end it. He's considering ending it altogether. So yeah,
By the
the
time
guy wants to be a king so bad.
by the time he gets done, if we get anybody back in office, all they gonna do, their whole administration is clean up. You can't even
Exactly.
you just gotta
And but see, what's funny is that's funny, but what's serious about that is that loses them the following election, because people say, well, what have you done? And when all they have been doing is cleaning up the mess. And they couldn't even focus on their own agenda because they had to clean up the mess. And this, like you said, if there's another election and if there's another president that comes in, oh my God. And 4 years of this, it's only been 2 months. Can you imagine?
I can imagine, but if he does stay in, and let's just say hypothetically he gets a third term, do you think that Obama would consider running again?
I think Obama has the heart to do it. I really
You
don't. I don't think he has the heart to. I don't think he has the fortitude to do it. I think I think Michelle would, and not that she would run, but she would run before he would. I think. I don't
Really?
think he wants any part of it.
I don't think she has the patience for these white folks. I
Oh, I
really
don't think
don't.
so either. That's why
I
I
think
said I just think that
and
he
they
is.
cuss one of them out in a very educated way.
He was at a Clipper game the other night, got a standing
That's right.
ovation,
Mhm.
and last night, and got a standing ovation and everything. I think this man is living his life. Is he bothered by what's going on? I'm sure he is, but he ain't that bothered.
No.
He won't be bothered enough, and not to put it on him, but I'm gonna just say this anyway. He won't be bothered until they start taking away his Secret Service detail and his pension and all that stuff. Then he might want to get back into the game, but that might drive him back into the game. But
Yeah, it's
other than
always
that,
something that'll make you act. For
yeah,
Rep Al Green, it was Medicaid. He was like,
it was
that's
Medicaid.
where I draw the line. I'm
That's where
done.
he drew the
It's
line.
something that's always gonna push you to act. We just
Yeah,
gotta find
yeah.
out what that is.
Well, they need to figure out if there's going to be another election, if there's going to be another president after this guy. They need to figure out how to get America drunk enough, because that's what has to happen, or drugged enough to put a woman in power. Because they refuse to put a woman in power, which is what this country really needs badly. Um, if you look at it from that respect, that they need a leader, it should be a woman. But the last two were the most qualified you can ever come by, and of course they made sure that neither one of them got in, Hillary and Kamala.
You know what's wild?
um,
You know what's wild is that in 2025, we're having a conversation right now that's saying if we get another president.
mhm.
Now that's something to ponder.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
2025, we are having a conversation
yep,
about having another president,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
Ku Klux
and listen,
Klan is running the White House. The Ku
that's
Klux
right.
Klan is
But
running
did
this
you
country.
did you catch when we had Representative God, who did we have on the last congressman we had on?
Hank Johnson.
Hank,
Hank,
yeah, Hank, exactly. Did you catch him say, even about the midterms, if there's a midterm election? Go back and look at what he said. He said if. He didn't say when. He said if.
so see, there are
So,
conversations that are being had on that hill that we're not privy to.
mhm.
And so we should be highly concerned. And you heard that Jamal Bowman, he was at the Capitol on Tuesday, walking the halls. There's so many conversations that are being had that we have no idea. We should take this weekend to ponder,
Mhm.
what are we going to do?
Oh gosh. They are scared. Trixie said they are scared of women. And she says every man came from a woman. It
Got a
reminds
name from
everybody.
a woman. That sounds like a Tupac lyric. Since we all came from a woman, got a name from a woman, and a game for a woman. Dear mama.
See, there you go. There, she has to give us a line or two. We love it. So, Women's History Moment, not just Women's History, but Black History Moment. Nia?
Yes. But March is Women's History Month, and if we're gonna talk about a woman, it's gonna be a black one. So today for Women's History Month, we celebrate beauty icon Pat McGrath. Pat was just named creative director of Louis Vuitton's first makeup line. So we have this this Women's History fact of today. This woman now will lead. She's making Black history as well as the first director of Louis Vuitton's makeup line. That's super dope. So now we have Fenty with Rihanna. Well, that's Rihanna's. Well, that her name is on it.
Yeah.
And now we have Pat McGrath.
You notice, Niel, when Greer put up the other picture and the white woman showed, Niel was like, huh?
No, I can't remember her name, but that was when models used to model. Okay.
They
I
used
don't
to
know who
model.
these girls are now, but that was back in the day when you had Naomi Campbell, you had Cindy Crawford, maybe that's Christy Teigen, but that's when the Victoria Secret shows used to be a big deal. That was when modeling was modeling. I like her.
Yeah. Of course, we have to mention that on this date, 1965, and we know Orange G is down there with his OJ starter kit. That After the police murdered Jimmy Lee Jackson, 600 people began a march from Selma to Montgomery to confront Governor Wallace about the lack of justice served for the officer who committed the crime and to protest the violation of their constitutional rights to vote. The march was organized by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and the Dallas County Voters League. All went according to plan until they reached the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where they met extreme violence from a wall of Alabama state troopers who had been waiting for them. The march was halted as the troopers and sheriffs tear gassed and beat marches. It is known, of course, as Bloody Sunday, and John Lewis was beaten badly, badly on Bloody Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And that's where that lyric, lest we forget, we do not forget. But once again, as we look at what's happening today, we definitely hope that they're down there in the basement of some church and they're going to come out with some strategy. You think that's going to happen, Stacey? But go ahead.
No, you go ahead because I have no answer.
No, I was just looking at all those individuals was there. Lest we forget, we might have uplift John Lewis, and you said SCLC. We know Dr. King was running that at the time, but all of those people, names known and unknown, are why we have the liberties that we have today. So as we reflect on yesterday, how do we take that energy of our ancestors to move forward today? That is the question.
Okay. Well, our with that, we leave you our newspaper of the day. Do you want to do that?
No, go for it.
You want me to go for it? Okay.
Yeah. I bet you have a story in the paper this week.
Yeah. The Miami Times is our Black-owned newspaper of the day. Since 1923, the Miami Times has been an important part of the week for some of South Florida's most sophisticated readers. As South Florida's oldest and largest Black newspaper, or Black-owned newspaper, we represent the pinnacle of community relations. Founded by the Reeves family, the paper continues to be a family-owned business committed to serving the community. Annually, the Miami Times honor the next generation of dreamers with a special section highlighting the accomplishments of young adults in its community. At other times, the newspaper engages the community with its annual gospel concert and through symposiums and forums. So they do so much in that community. The Miami Times has been awarded the John B. Rushworm Trophy by the Black Press of America numerous times, recognizing the paper as the #1 Black newspaper in the country. The National Newspaper Publishers Association has also awarded the Miami Times many other awards, including the John H. Senstack General Excellence Award, the Ida B. Wells Best News Story, Best Church Page, and Best Entertainment section. Go to MiamiTimesOnline.com and you will see that the paper offers up to the minute news that is relevant to the community, and it engages readers on all social channels, tailoring its message to fit the platform that it's on. The Miami Times. Danielle Pierre says, we love the Miami Times.
Yeah, and I think it's a fun fact to let our viewers know, give them some inside tips. All those awards, annually, the Black press, all the newspapers congregate. Is it in June?
Yep, June, yes.
Yeah, it's
This
in
June,
June.
in fact, is in Savannah.
It's in Savannah, and so they have an award ceremony, and all of the Black newspapers submit their stories to win these most prestigious awards. So everybody's probably trying to get their stories together now and thinking about, what am I going to submit to win these prestigious awards this year? And so it's always an exciting time to hear your name nominated, but it's even better when you win. How many have you won, Stacey?
Well, I'm not a newspaper.
Oh, but I mean, sometimes the writers win.
Yeah, so a couple of things with that. I'll answer it this way. So because I write for all of our newspapers, I'm not eligible for the award. However, last year, Greer and I received the Black Excellence in Media Award from the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Fund for Let It Be Known News. So we are the reigning Black Excellence and Media Award holders for 2024 2025.
All right, I love it. See, you're taking the Black media, Black press rather, into from digital. Now we're in streaming.
There you
because
go.
you and Greer. So congratulations to that. I'm glad to be on the team.
She says, I'm reading it because I'm hogging the award. It's sitting in front of me. You got that right. It's in a case right in front of me.
Well, see, next time they got to do like the Grammys. Everybody got
everybody
got to get one.
So we're supposed to share. So I've hogged it. She's right. I've hogged it.
All right,
and
guys.
by the way, before we go, RG says if he needs some bail money, he's gonna call me. He know better than that. He better call down in New Orleans, down Louisiana, and have somebody go into that mattress. I mean, this guy got Fort Knox under his mattress. He gonna call somebody else for bail money. Come on with that.
All right, guys, if you're looking for something to read this weekend, head over to blackpressusa.com with all of the stories that are impacting and uplifting the Black experience. That's blackpressusa.com.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate you guys. Have a safe weekend. Have fun. Whatever you choose to do it safely and make sure you enjoy yourself. We'll see you on Monday.